In the name of Tanzania, Uganda, and the Holy Republic of Kenya, once again we are witnessing the Holy Trinity corridor of state oppression, and the triplets have decided that they are going to be known for the entire historical context for authoritarian rhetoric across the region. But before I set pace, let's listen to our very own senator in our own triplet republic, Mr. Cherargei.
I want to ask President Museveni and President Samia Suluhu Hassan, if you get any busybodies activists who want to destabilize the sovereignty and the peace and tranquility of your country, finya hawa, warudishe nyumbani, tuwamalizie.
Let's take a moment to analyze the finya hao na warudishe huku tufanye nini? Tuwamalizie. And the securitization of activism has been happening across this region. We have seen what the devastation in Tanzania has caused. We have seen what Kenya has just healed from last year, continuing to the fact that there's a massive uproar in securitizing activism across the East African nation, East African region. The regional integration, civic society and solidarity spaces, the shrinking space of civic experience within the region. The promise of the East African community is looking blasphemous. Other than the fact that we've seen multiple abductions, we've just seen the release of Nicholas and Bob Njagi. We've had Agatha and Boniface being abducted earlier on in the year. We're seeing these siblings coming together to say, look, apart from activism causing chaos, as blatantly put by Mr. Cherargei, wherever they are in your country, finger them, then bring them home, and we will finish what you have started. And I don't know what the DCI is doing in this case, because they are roaming free, speaking of violence against the very same things that the Constitution fully and fundamentally protects, which is that we are free to speak, free to move, free to associate. And as we continue in the service of what solidarity looks like for Kenyans, South Africa is having an uprising against gender-based violence. So does it mean when us Kenyan women and activists across the space go on to support South Africans that we should be finward in Cape Town and then brought back home to be malizward for? That is my hot button for the day.
It is very hot, and it crosses country. I don't know, I mean, you have a lot of faith that the authorities can take action against the good senator.
Well.
I wish you well, but there's a fat chance of that happening.
Completely. I mean, everything that you've said is all true. And it just gets to a point where you ask yourself, what exactly do these old politicians think is going on around them?
Exactly.
And at what point will they all realize that things have changed? Or maybe the question is, have they? Maybe they haven't actually. Maybe we're the ones, you know, some people sitting in some small cocoon and you see things moving and you think, oh my God, the whole East Africa is changing. Maybe it isn't.
Yeah, it is. Okay, we're not the only ones with hot buttons. Start with Remisa. What has been disturbing you this week?
Okay, where do I...
That's better.
Do I start off?
So start from the very beginning. What's your name?
I'm Nyamisa Chelagat. I am in the civic tech space. And as I was saying, I started by saying I'm in black because East Africa is mourning. We've lost very many young people to political violence, of course, instigated by the triplets, as Zaha said. And it's such a shame that we have gone back to the tribal political rhetoric, and it is a shame that our leaders are using that to justify their attacks on young people who, most of them, had nothing to do with what was happening in Tanzania. Yeah. We've had Kenyans who got arrested in Tanzania while going about their business. They were not activists, and there is nothing wrong with being an activist. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for now.
It's very true.
All right. Here, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Chege Majuis. Myself, I'm not amazed or astonished by the words of Cherargei because we are about to see more. We are going to the campaigns. What amazes me is the background and where he's saying those words. Those words should be said somewhere in Embobut Forest where you are hiding of shame saying such words. But if you look at the background, it is in church. We have a logo of Kenya Assemblies of God Church. Because you can see it, it's in the video. At that podium, you can see even a Bible. And you can see maybe they were reading some word of God. And in my imagination, he was telling those words to believers. People who believe in Jesus Christ, because that is a church, who believe in good governance, who believe in people who have been abducted for saying their rights, and all the rights that the Word of God believes in. So, where has been the church? That church, Kenya Assemblies of God, all this time that those incitement has been going around, the church could have stood and said, such nonsense should not be said in churches going forward. It is not left for the mainstream churches alone, the Catholic, AIC and PCA, to be doing the work of making sure that these politicians, they don't have such speeches in their churches. Because if it was the mainstream church, it could have been condemned by the bishops and the council of that church. But even other evangelist churches, they should waige hiyo mfano to make sure such politicians, you don't come to that church, you are being put as a mamushaino for donating, then from that, you have the license to say whatever you want to say. Cherargei is not new in issuing such divisionary and inciting words to Kenyans. He has been saying it since 2021. And we have not heard what he's saying towards 2027. He has been saying there is some people who should not be left wandering here in Rift Valley. And he's referring to certain tribes. But nothing can be taken, no action can be taken against him because he's in the right side. And the right side is the ruling side. Was he in opposition? I'm sure right now the National Commission of Human Rights and something that looks at how people talk, they could have issued a warning against him or even called him.
The good thing is we have someone from the National Cohesion to discuss this.
Yes.
So I'll ask you to hang on this so that we set it up correctly, right?
Okay.
Who have misunderstood or they don't get, is it good Kiswahili or English? There is nothing I will apologize for because the clarity of mind I have is very clear. When you say finya, it means to press. And you say rudisha hawa nyumbani, tutawamalizia, is to take good care of them. So I don't see anything wrong, nor do I need to apologize. I've seen the hue and cry of a number of Kenyans and social media activists. Those are just busybody social media activists. I still repeat that any person, the integrity, the sovereignty of a country should and must be respected. Any busybodies activists who go to other countries to cause problems should be dealt in those countries through the legal procedures and law that are there within those jurisdictions. And I don't know where this habit of Kenyans, busybody activists from Kenya, can policy other countries like Tanzania, Uganda, among others. And that is why I said yesterday, the leadership of those countries, the President Samia Suluhu government and President Museveni's government have a right to deal with any troublemaker that comes from Kenya. And they should do so because they are protecting the peace, the cohesion, the unity and tranquility of those nations. We don't have any business as Kenyans to go and benchmark or police any countries across our borders, in as much as they should be busy doing their thing within this country. And I think we are taking for granted the space and freedom that we enjoy in this country. And I heard one of the abductees that was released from Uganda that he will live to appreciate some of these things. Because what you get over the borders is not as good than the freedom. You know, in this country, the Kenya's busybody activists have already gotten away with insults. They have gotten away with undermining threatening authorities in this country, and we have found it normal. In other countries, it's abnormal. And therefore, those countries should deal firmly with any troublemakers that come from this country. And I want to ask Kenyans, who are either in Tanzania, Uganda, and across the country, when you go there, do what you want to do there. Do the business. Marry if you can't. Be married there if you can't. Do business. Read. If you are a student, go and do the education there. But for heaven's sake, stop meddling in the internal political affairs of those countries. And those are the principles of reciprocity in international diplomacy. The diplomacy levels are there. If any Kenyan has a problem with how the affairs of those countries are being run, there is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They can petition the parliament. They can petition the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to raise those issues, but they don't need to go there and interfere. You know where I come from? They say we share the sunshine, but we don't share houses. They say in my local language, so that is the principle that people should and must adhere. And I will not retract my statements, because those statements are legal, lawful, moral, and right in any given society. It was just a cautionary statement to the busybody activists. Go to those countries, do business, read, study, marry, get married, do business, bring what you want to bring, but for heaven's sake, don't interfere. And those presidents, the governments of Museveni, the government of Samia Suluhu Hassan must and should deal with any troublemakers. Because what is important to those countries is their unity. There can be no human rights without peace. There can be no development without peace. Those are, I really wanted to make that, that issue. And as a leader in this country, I've observed this trend for quite some time. And even in Kenya, if the activists, busybody activists from Uganda or Tanzania, who want to bring chaos and trouble in Kenya, the Kenyan government must deal with them. Because you are not a Kenyan citizen. What business would you be discussing Uganda affairs and you are not a citizen of Uganda? You are not a citizen of Tanzania. Those are what we call bad manners. And those bad manners, I want to thank President Museveni for dealing with those bad manners and Samia Suluhu Hassan. And in fact, also to thank them for releasing those activists to their families, but also to thank them for disciplining. I think as a country we are failing discipline, so it is good that they did discipline them. I hope they will reform, re-engage. They have a right, this right of freedom of association, speech, is enjoined within the Kenyan borders. But when you move to other countries, those rights are no longer there. You became an alien, you became a foreign citizen. Just like the Ugandan activists or Tanzanian activists cannot come to Kenya and start demonstrating. And I think we thank President Museveni for listening to Kenyans and the Kenyan government to release those activists back to home. But we hope, even the other day we had activists who were arrested and released from Tanzania. We hope these lessons they can learn. Let them ply their thread here in Kenya, because the freedom is too much. Let them do that. I think chenye nataka kusema kwa Kiswahili ni ya kwamba yale nilisema jana kule Nandi sitabadilisha. Nilisema kwa njia iliyo wazi na ni kisheria. Na ya kwamba kuna wanaharakati ambao wako na tabia mbaya na mbovu, ambao wanatoka nchi yetu ya Kenya, wanaenda nchi ya Tanzania, wanaenda nchi ya Uganda, wanaenda kuleta purukushani, wanaenda kuleta vita, wanaenda kufanya protest, wanaenda kuingilia masuala ya nchi nyingine. Hiyo ni kukosa heshima, hiyo ni kuharibu kidiplomasia nchi yetu ya Kenya na nchi zijazo. Mimi nakubaliana kuna Wakenya ambao wengi wao wameenda kusoma. Kuna wenye wameenda kufanya biashara, kuna wenye wameenda kuolewa, wameoa. Tufanye hizo zote, lakini mambo ya kuingilia siasa za nchi hizo zikome. Na nafikiri wale wanaharakati ambao waliwachiliwa kule Tanzania na wale wamewachiliwa juzi pale Uganda wamejifunza, wamelearn from those bad manners ambayo walijaribu kuchukua katika nchi hizo. So na hata sisi hatutarajii wana